Hello. In this video, I'm going to go over a basic introduction to SPSS. If you have used SPSS before and feel pretty familiar with it, feel free and skip some of this content. But if you'd like a refresher or if this is your first time using it, you might want to go over this material a little more thoroughly. To get started, before you go through this video, if you haven't downloaded SPSS to your computer yet, you're going to want to do that first. So if you look under the module in the technology guide document that I provided, it'll give you instructions on how to download a free version of SPSS through the materials that ONSL provides to you. So make sure and go through those steps and get that downloaded first. If you have any issues with downloading it, reach out to me, and you can also reach out to tech support. I'd recommend doing that pretty early in this module. That way you make sure you have SPSS ready to go when you actually need it. All right. So we're going to start by just going over some of the basics of SPSS. So just to point out a few of the basics here for you, I'm going to stop sharing and reshare so you can see what I am looking at. All right. So when we talk about SPSS, if you see this little blue circle icon at the bottom, this is the application or probably what it's going to look like on your computer. When SPSS gets installed, it's going to install some other programs that we're not necessarily going to use. We want the icon that looks like this. So if you click on this, it should open the dialogues that I'm going to show you here. So the first dialogue I see is going to prompt me to either open a file or start a new data set. In this case, I'm just going to click on starting a new data set. And I will go over what you're looking at here. So in SPSS, we have what's called a data view, and we can see that label down here. We also have what's called a variable view. Sorry, my computer was lagging there for a second. So we have a data view and we have a variable view that we can switch back and forth between. In the data view, that's where we're going to actually be entering our data. In the variable view, we can list the different variables we have. I'm going to show you some videos in a second that will go through the details of those, but just know that those are options you can select down here. At the top of your page, you should see, if you're in SPSS, different tools you can use. The Analyze tool is one we're going to be using a lot, and each of these has different options within it that you're going to be using throughout the module. So just be aware that that is in place there. And then we also have this other file that shows up as well, or this screen, and it's going to say something like output at the top. Anytime we run analysis in SPSS, it's going to show the results of that analysis in this box, and you'll see that in the tutorials you're going to go through and when you use SPSS yourself. So those are just some of the really basic components of SPSS. I'm going to go back into our PowerPoint real quick. All right. So if you're wondering how to get data into SPSS, if you used Qualtrics for your survey, there's actually an easy way of exporting data straight from Qualtrics into SPSS. And I provided a link here that'll take you to a tutorial on how to do that. So you just follow those steps. If you're not using Qualtrics, you can either enter your data directly into SPSS, or if you prefer, to enter your data in something like Excel first, that's totally fine as well. I find SPSS pretty easy to just enter data straight into, but if you're more comfortable with Excel, that's fine. This will give you an overview of how to import an Excel file into SPSS. All right. So next I just have, there's 4 videos that range, they're usually about only maybe 5 minutes or so, but it'll give you some of the basics of data entry into SPSS. So I think those are good tools to go through. I won't go through them here, but they're there for you as a resource. And then I'm also going to go over something that the videos didn't quite cover. If you haven't looked through those videos yet, I would pause this recording now and come back when you're done watching them. But if you watch those videos already, you're ready to talk about missing values. So when we talk about SPSS and missing data, I'll show you what we're gonna be doing. So let me pull this back up for you so you can see it. All right. And to pull up our variable view. Okay, so within SPSS, let's say, for example, we're dealing with your survey data and you are trying to put that in. I'm just going to make up some data real quick for our purposes. So I'm going to have a variable. I'm just going to call it item 1. I'll call my next variable item 2. So let's just say this is the data for my first question on my survey. This is the data for my second question. And I'm just going to enter the responses. So let's say on item 1, respondent 1 here had a value of 1 and a value of 1 for item 2. I'm just going to go through and enter some random data. It doesn't matter what this data is at this point, just to give you an idea. All right. So let's say, for instance, that we get to participant 7 and they skipped an item on your survey. So there is a way to handle that. So let's say that they answered item 1, but they didn't answer item 2. Ideally, we would like participants to answer all our questions, but sometimes that doesn't happen. So we need to tell Stata that we have a missing value here. That way it doesn't try to record it or use this number in analysis. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to variable view and I'm going to look under item 2 and you'll see over here this column labeled missing. What this allows me to do is to tell Stata that I'm going to assign all missing data some value. So let's say, for example, my survey only has data that goes from 1 to 7. -9 would never be a value that's going to come up on my survey. So I'm going to make -9 my missing value indicator. When SPSS now sees -9, it's not going to interpret that as a number it's going to use for analysis. Rather, it's going to automatically recognize that that is missing data and it's not going to use it for analysis. So I'm going to put -9 as my value, and then I'm going to hit OK. I can create more than one way to label my missing values. For now, we just really need one. And for the purposes of this assignment, you'll probably only need one. Okay, so -9 is now a missing value. I can do that for my other variables as well, even though my other variable doesn't have any missing data. Um, and then say that respondent 7 here skipped item 2. All I have to do is hit -9. And now Stata is going to recognize that as missing data. So when I run this analysis, it's not going to actually try and run analysis using this -9 number. Instead, it's just automatically going to say, oh, I know that -9, based upon the missing values I entered here, that means that data is missing. I am just going to skip it, and I'm not going to use this value for any analysis that is being run. So Stata or SPSS will automatically take that and know what to do with it. But if you have anyone who skips an item on your survey, that's just how you handle it. Uh, so it's just a really quick intro on some of the features of SPSS. I'll also provide in the modules um, some videos on how specifically to enter survey data into SPSS that you might find helpful. It's not going to vary a whole lot from these intro videos you already have, but it does go a little bit more into detail about entering Likert scale items. So feel free and review those if those are helpful as well.